From the publication of the first book in 1997 to the current year, Harry Potter is one of the most popular franchises of all time and has spawned numerous spin-offs, merchandise, and fanfictions. The fandom is absolutely enormous, and with so many people being invested in it, there were bound to be some fans who took their love for the series and for a certain character to the extreme. In this video, we'll explore Snapeism, the religion based on the Harry Potter character Severus Snape, as well as the women who called themselves the Snapewives. So I know that most people already know the major plot points of the series, but I'd like to begin by briefly discussing the character of Severus Snape in the context of the fandom. Snape is one of the most contentious characters in the series, and this controversy was at its peak in the early 2000s, when there were gaps in time between the publication of each book and many fans were awaiting the next. In this period, speculation about all of the characters was rampant. This was especially relevant to Snape after the publication of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, where many were left wondering what side he was truly on. In a LiveJournal post from 2004, a user summarizes some of the varying opinions on Snape that fans held at the time. He is a greasy git, the ugly, big-nosed, sallow-skinned, crooked-teethed bane of Hogwarts students for over a decade, playing favorites to Slytherins and despising Gryffindors. He is an anti-hero, misunderstood, disliked, even hated as he walks the path of redemption for mistakes made in a youth now long past, bearing a mark of shame and still bound to an evil that endangers him every minute of every day as he desperately tries to help the forces of light which revile him. He is genius, a master of potions the likes of which hasn't been seen in many years, able to concoct brews of which very few can even dream, using his skill grudgingly to aid ungrateful youngsters and even the people who made his childhood a living hell. Fans seem to either love him or hate him with an almost insane devotion, producing hundreds of thousands of words of fiction and countless works of art depicting his unmistakable visage, arguing interpretations of each and every word he utters in canon, analyzing every glance, every gesture, every snark and sneer. Whether you love him or hate him, there is pretty much a universal truth surrounding him. No one is neutral about Severus Snape. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of this character is his death. The last Harry Potter book was released in 2007, and in this book, Snape is killed by Voldemort in an extremely emotional scene. As he lays dying, he releases his memories to Harry, which show that he had been on the side of good all along. While some fans applauded the end of the series, others were left disappointed, particularly with the treatment of Snape's character. Many felt that he did not get the redemption he deserved, or that he should have been given some kind of reward for his loyalty in the face of danger. In the midst of these discussions and arguments about Snape's arc, many fans became extremely attached to him, and they showed their dedication through art, fanfictions, and fan sites. This is completely normal for any large fandom. However, some fans latched onto Snape in an extremely obsessive manner, and they took their attachment to the character beyond fanfictions and shipping wars. Let's dive into the history of the Snapeists, otherwise known as the Snapewives. To give a brief summary of Snapeism, it's a religion based around a group of Snape fans who believe that he's not simply a fictional character created by J.K. Rowling, but rather a supernatural being who exists in another dimension. Snapewives believe that they're in a polygamous marriage with Severus Snape on an astral plane, and they channel him for guidance and support in their lives. The religion was officially given the title Snapeism in 2008. Unfortunately, a good amount of content has been purged from the internet, but I've done my best to find archives or screenshots of original posts. I'll generally be referencing the quotes and perspectives of three of the most well-known Snapewives, Conchita, Rose, and Tanya. So now let's delve deeper into the religious beliefs of Snapeism. Snapeism has many elements that are in line with Christian beliefs. Within Snapeism, Snape himself is comparable to the Christian God. He is divine, all-powerful, and omniscient. Rose explains his virtues as being bewitching, masterful, ensnaring, mysterious, alluring, mesmerizing, and enigmatic. Snapeists believe that while it's impossible to concretely prove the existence of spiritual figures, that doesn't make Snape any less real or holy. Their connection with Snape is through means such as phantom smells, tastes, sounds, feelings. Some Snapewives also believe that they felt Snape's touch on their skin in real life. When describing his abilities, Snapeists explain that his wisdom and power has opened their minds, advised them, and kept them sane in times of trouble. They also claim that he used his power to contact or influence them, such as advising Tanya on how to fold a blanket and Rose seeing a man who looked like Snape while at a train station. His power was supposedly great enough that he was able to give Tanya's father-in-law a heart attack, which pleased her. Similarly to Christianity, blasphemy against Snape is taken very seriously by Snapeists. When the Tonner brand introduced a new Snape doll, Rose was outraged to see online comments from other fans saying they wanted to check under his clothes to see if he has knickers on, and take pics of his naked rump. In response to this heathenish behavior, she said, "I wouldn't ever dare disrespect Master in such a humiliating manner." Tensions were raised between the Snapewives on occasion, such as when Conchita claimed that sexual fanfiction about themselves and Snape should be kept private and that sharing it is disrespectful, but Rose and Tanya believed that writing erotic self-insert fanfiction would bring them closer to him. Most of their fanfictions have been purged from the internet, but a few choice excerpts still exist. Another similarity between Christianity and Snapeism is the intolerance towards homosexuality. Snape himself apparently said that he will not tolerate the so-called slash movement, referring to non-canonical gay pairings. As such, the Snapewives were staunchly against any art or writing that depicted Snape in a male-on-male relationship. The Snapewives themselves have also made the comparison to Christianity on several occasions, saying that Snape is as real as the Christian God, and that if Christians aren't delusional, then Snapewives aren't either. Rose mentioned that she was raised Christian, but she felt that it was restrictive, as she would have to give up her beliefs in supernatural entities like vampires. Finding Snape is apparently what made her find herself. The comparison between Snapeism and Christianity is interesting to note, given that some Christians believe that Harry Potter is satanic and promotes witchcraft and devil worship.
And while I'm on the subject, let me say something about Harry Potter. Warlocks are enemies of God. And I don't care what kind of hero they are, they're an enemy of God. And had it been in the Old Testament, Harry Potter would have been put to death.
In line with the conception of Snape as an omniscient god, the Snapeists believed that the Harry Potter books were written by J.K. Rowling in a similar manner to that of the Christian Bible. They believed that she was inspired by the divine Snape and channeled his spirit to pen the books, rather than using her imagination to create his character. Because she's only human, the common belief between Snapewives was that Rowling made mistakes regarding her portrayal of him and his character arc. As such, she's viewed as a flawed scribe by most of the Snapeists. They acknowledge the core plot points of the series, such as Snape being instrumental in Voldemort's downfall, as being true. However, they felt as if much of her commentary throughout the series is biased, and they question how well she actually knew Snape. For example, Rose claimed that Snape enjoyed gardening and flowers, but Rowling failed to acknowledge that in the narrative. In short, the Snapewives believe that the portrayal of Snape as written by J.K. Rowling is fictional, and that he's separate from their master, who's a real divine entity on another astral plane. Another issue that the Snapewives had with Rowling was that she referred to him as Snape when interviewed. The Snapeists generally referred to him as either Master, My Lord, or Severus, although use of Master has been contended by some because it apparently reminds him of Hogwarts. Regarding Rowling, Conchita wrote, "Please read everywhere she states Snape as Severus Snape. I really dislike the way she talks of him. The man has a name for Merlin's sake." Snapeism is also characterized by intense emotional feelings towards Snape. When describing her passion towards him, Conchita wrote that she loves him more than anyone else and would die for him without hesitation, because her life without Snape is cruel and pointless. A similar sentiment was expressed by Tanya, who agreed that life without Snape is nothing. She explained this by saying, "I've never experienced anything this intense before now. There are times when I feel that my soul is being torn asunder with this fierce desire. Obsession is a mild word for what I feel for Severus Snape." Tanya also mentioned that her lust for Snape left her in tears some nights, saying, "Have you ever wanted something so badly that you ached from within your very soul for it, that it gnaws at your heart and very being? At times it brings tears to my eyes and I find myself trembling from this need." This emotional connection to Snape became so intense that he became not only their god, but their husband. The marriage was polygamous, as several Snapewives were married to Snape at once. They considered their marriage to him to be completely legitimate and serious. However, they were adamant that they did not have a relationship with one another. At first, the marriage between the Snapewives and Snape was conceptualized as involving Lily. However, their opinions on her soon changed as they began thinking that Snape did not forgive Lily for choosing James over him, and that Lily would never be good enough for him. They claim that Snape agreed with this and told them that they are all he needs and not to dwell on the past. The initial relationship involving Lily can be seen in Rose's wedding vows, which say, "Our beloved Severus, we, Lily Evans and Rose, pledge these sacred vows." In Conchita's vows to Snape, she promises that she will not love another man. She refused any potential boyfriends or spouses, saying, "I'm Severus's woman, so I will not be with other men. Being with Severus is satisfying enough. Why would I ever need another man?" Monogamy to Snape wasn't necessary, however, as both Rose and Tanya had husbands. They claimed that Snape supported his wives' marriages to another man, but that he's territorial and as such limited them to only being physically intimate with one other partner. This was beneficial to the Snapewives, as they claimed that Snape could use their husbands' bodies as a vessel to have sex with them. Describing this, Rose said, "Master would take over for my hubby and have fun. Basically, my hubby would do things in ways that only Master can and could." Rose also claimed that her husband failed to give her the attention and satisfaction that she craved, saying, "I can be sitting next to him either in a hot nightie or nothing at all and he barely notices me. No wonder I am more and more fleeing into my world with Master." She also engaged in sexual experiences with Snape while at work. One of Rose's fantasies included Snape killing her with a potion post-coitus, which allowed her to travel to his astral plane with him and join their souls together at long last. She also wrote fanfiction about her fantasies where she would spontaneously burst into flames as she danced with Snape. Unfortunately, not all of the Snapewives experienced the same sexual satisfaction. Tanya's husband George personally offended Snape by saying that he did not exist. As punishment, she said that Snape made her husband appear to not exist at his job, and Tanya refused to allow him to be part of her sex life with Snape, which included acts such as erotic dancing that mimics the thrashing of one's body in the midst of an orgasm. At one point, he woke up while she was dancing erotically for Snape, and she would not continue until he left the house. George reportedly could not wait until Snape was gone from Tanya's life forever. Conchita had conflicting feelings on the polygamous marriage between Snape's sister wives. When discussing her upcoming wedding, she said, "I know there are also other wives of Snape. I'm not saying I'm the only one, but that is okay." However, after fighting with other Snape wives, she wrote a long list of things she believes Snape would not do, which includes engage in polygamy, allow his woman to have another man, marry more than one woman, and being sexually promiscuous. This fight further distanced her from Rose and Tanya. The issue of monogamy to Snape was also a source of trouble between Rose and Tanya. Rose was becoming increasingly interested in the actor Mark Harmon, who played Agent Gibbs in NCIS. She enjoyed photoshopping him and Snape into scenes together. Tanya believed that this was wrong, as she was not being faithful to Snape. This was the cause of a big fight between the two, which we'll come back to later. In addition to an emotional connection, Snapeists also claim that they have a spiritual connection with Snape and can channel him, with varying degrees of success. Conchita said that she struggled to channel Snape, and she did not have much contact with him outside of apparently once catching him reading fan mail from other Snapewives and organizing a birthday party for him. She once tried using her blood on a poster of Snape to channel him, but this only resulted in her offending the other Snapewives. Rose claimed to have slightly more success with channeling Snape, but despite her being able to hear her master's voice clearly, she said that her issues with channeling were caused by being brainwashed by the Christian Church. Her main way of channeling Snape was through her tattoo, where she apparently felt a painful sensation when he touched her arm. Tanya was considered to be the most successful at channeling Snape, and she was adamant that it was not a roleplay. In a self-insert fanfiction, she wrote that Snape said that she was his vessel and that he would communicate with his wives through her. Her ability to channel Snape made her somewhat of a Snapeist ringleader, because she was apparently able to communicate his divine will to others, such as stating that he would not tolerate annoying, giggling fangirls. She also claimed to have psychic powers, as she had visions of things that would be in the next book or movie. Her predictions include Snape owning a chair and Snape sitting in his office at Hogwarts. She also claimed to channel Snape to have sexual roleplay with other Snapeists. Although Snapeism forbade homosexuality, some people suggest that there may have been some degree of attraction or sexual experimentation between the wives under the guise of channeling Snape. During a fight between the Snapewives that will be looked into more later, Rose and Tanya criticized Conchita by saying that she was unable to channel Snape because her heart wasn't pure and she wasn't submissive enough to him. Fighting back, Conchita said that Tanya and Rose lied about channeling Snape and made a post warning about them, saying, "If Severus Snape wants to speak to you, he will do that himself. Believe me, no one could ever impersonate him other than the real man/spirit. Do not believe medium/channelers that say they knew him for years and spread his word. Perhaps one day they used to, as sometimes we can all catch something from the other side, but most they tell you are lies and nonsense. Do not believe it, and please do not let it affect you. It is damaging." While the wives fought like this on several occasions, they never posted about a divorce. So now that I've laid out a basic understanding of Snapeism and the beliefs and practices of the Snapewives, I'd like to discuss the public reception. The Snapewives were relatively obscure until FandomWank discovered their posts. FandomWank is a community dedicated to laughing at the drama that internet fans created, which is referred to as wank. In 2006, the user Narcissum posted a detailed chronicling of Conchita's online worship of Snapeism. It begins with her vows to Snape, a letter to him regarding how she felt her devotion was slipping, and a photo of her shrine to him, which was sadly not archived. According to one commenter, it was apparently disappointing because it wasn't as crazy as they'd anticipated. Narcissum goes on to mention the forum that Conchita created to share her faith with others, where Snape was a member and replied to some of the posts. Discussions revolved around topics like Snape's underwear, his pitiful childhood, Alan Rickman's hotness, James Potter's cruelty, Evanescence lyrics, their self-insert fanfics, and most importantly, Snape's messages for them in their dreams. This post also includes an excerpt from a discussion between Conchita and Tanya where Tanya unsuccessfully tried to channel Snape for her. It goes on to document a fight between Tanya and Conchita that was sparked by Tanya posting an analysis of Snape's faults on her live journal page. This enraged Conchita, who wrote a long post discrediting Tanya's post as rubbish and lies. This did not deter Tanya, who responded by making another post about Snape's imperfections and weaknesses. In response, Conchita declared war on her. This fight led to Conchita writing 2 letters to Snape. The first was on September 19, 2006, and read, "Dearest Severus, this might be my last letter to you. Not because I stop loving you, I can't do that, ever. Not because I am too weak or because I found someone. You are still my light, there will never be anyone else but you, and right now I'm stronger than ever, dealing with so much shit my head explodes. This might be the last one, because I have to let you go, for you and for me. Try to stop me if you do care. I dare you, Severus Snape. Stop me from letting go and tell me you notice me. Loving you, I will never stop. I just have to move on. I am sure you will see what I mean, that is, if you ever notice what I go through lately. I need my strength to fight for my kids. No more asking, waiting, and pleading. No more rituals at all. If you want me, stop me. If you don't, let me go. Or tell me you hate me. That makes it easier. Please understand, I miss you so much that it takes away all my energy and fighting spirit. I only want to be with you while I should be looking after my kids. Set my mind free or be there for me. I dare and beg you. I am sorry, Severus. Apparently you were right all along. I am not the one, and I will never be worthy to be. Just forget about me. Always yours. That will never change. Never. Be well, my dearest. Please forgive me my weaknesses." At the mention of her having kids while still being deeply obsessed with Snape, many commenters expressed concerns and the desire to report her to Child Protective Services. Conchita followed this with another letter on September 20th, where she confirms that she will move on from him for good. In this letter, she writes, "One day later, indeed, that was my last letter. You already know why I say this. I wish you well with the woman/women of your choice, Severus. Now I know it was never me. If you ever want to know where I am, look for me in the shadows. I apologize for all the grief I have caused. I did not mean to. I was selfish, uncontrolled, and stupid. I will move on with you in my heart. That will never change. No one can make me lose that too, not even you, Severus. Be well and happy. I will always love you." While she was done contacting him through letters, Conchita continued discussion of Snape on the forums. Less than a month later, on October 14, 2006, she and Tanya reconciled. Narcissum continues adding a few more updates, including that Rose showed up to defend her sister wives. The very last update is Snape's proclamation that none of the Snapeists are allowed to post on FandomWank. There were over 5,000 comments on this post, with the majority either mocking the Snapewives or expressing concern over their beliefs. But rather than back down to the barrage of commenters, the Snapewives tended to defend themselves against the criticism. In response to Conchita's dismay at the negative attention they received, Tanya commented, "It isn't forbidden to dream and love, and just because those morons don't know how to, doesn't mean we don't. I shall carry on and to hell with them. I decided I will not make my stuff private, but I won't return to the page on risk of having myself chewed out by him. I will not let them change me. I tell you, it was hard for me not to run straight back over there and fight them, but Severus jumped my case and said the imbeciles weren't worth the effort or time, and as always, he is right." They also responded directly to their detractors. For example, in response to a negative comment, Rose replied, "The way I see things is that we tend to limit ourselves, our beliefs, our understanding, our willingness. Due to what? Society? Because people tend to be afraid of what they don't understand? Oh well, your all's loss, my gain. Does that make me sick? No more so than others. However, I do tend to live a real life with my hubby, my cats, my plants, my friends, my master. I stand where I stand, and ever so proudly." In response to an anonymous commenter who remarked that the Snapewives are delusional for obsessing over a fictional character when they themselves obsess over a hockey player, Tanya replied, "You obsess over a hockey player, hmm? Well, that could be judged to be just as bad as what we do, except we don't have to worry about famous personalities getting all upset." Tanya also apparently made several comments on the original post on Fandom Wank, presumably before Snape forbade his wives from posting. In the first, she said that she stood by everything on her website and encouraged others who did not agree with Snapeism to stay off her page. She also encouraged users to get a life and finished off the message by assuring them that Snape is in fact real. In the next comment, Tanya claimed that the post had not gotten to her and that the criticism on Fandom Wank was making her laugh. Although they had just made up, the era of peace between the Snapewives did not last for long. A follow-up post by Cato Potato in November of that same year documents yet another fight. This time, the argument is Conchita versus Rose and Tanya that was mentioned earlier. Cato Potato begins by presenting a post Conchita made on the wall of shame of her discussion board where she calls out Tanya. It reads, "Sigh. And here I was hoping this thread would never get a reply. Well, it did, as the first one is officially banned as of yesterday. This time I will not undo it either like I did last time. Enough is enough, and I will not tolerate more bullshit about Severus. He is a respectable man and should be treated that way. Treat others like you would want to be treated. I am sure this does not apply to you, Snape maniac. You speak of respect for Severus and how others abuse his name. Tell me, what is it called what you do? Do you think he would fuss over the use of a name if you keep spreading these filthy lies? Hey, I was not there. I don't know all, I admit, but you were not there either, so don't tell me you know for a fact. Merlin, only the thought of that makes me sick. You've created a criminal out of him, a merciless sex offender. Let me tell you, he is not, and if there's anyone in need of meds or help, it will be you." One day later, she made a follow-up post calling out Rose. The post reads, "And on it goes, another one joined the rank, Snape's Rose. You thought it was really necessary to stir everything up while we agreed on a truce? Well, dear, let me tell you, and I know being crazy myself, you are really the craziest on this planet. Not only are you ignorant in seeing what Severus Snape really is like, you also glorify unspeakable things and think you are so perfect. You are sick and perverted and no longer welcome in my quarters. If you feel the need to fight me, then do so by all means. I am ready for you lot, as I will try to prove Einstein wrong. You can fight stupidity, and I will. You speak of love for Severus, but in fact you don't love him. You use him for your own sick world of domination and submission and think rape is cool. You told me to read the books, well I suggest you take your own advice as well, as nowhere in these great books is a clue to be found Severus Snape is as sick as you are. Thank Merlin and J.K. Rowling for that. Now if you want to excuse me, I am going to throw up." These callouts were apparently in response to a post that Rose made on her LiveJournal page, where she defended her relationship with her real-life husband and her lewd Snape fanfictions, as well as venting her frustrations about Conchita constantly bringing up her celibacy. This is where Rose began suggesting that Conchita's inability to channel Snape was because she was not pure and attuned to him, as herself and Tanya were. She ends the rant by accusing Conchita of being bipolar and needing to take medication. An edit to the post added that apparently Conchita herself had contacted Narcissum asking for a write-up on Fandom Wank. Fandom Wank commenters thought that this may have been evidence that the Snapewives staged the fight, but that's unconfirmed. In a later follow-up, it's noted that Rose deleted her post and the three sister-wives made up again. This didn't last for long, as a third post in the Fandom Wank saga was made in December of 2007 by I Wish I Was Boning Vampires, and it documents yet another fight between the Snapist sister-wives. Rose made a post discussing a secret Tanya had told her about Conchita. Apparently, the issue behind the post is that Lily thought Conchita was not pure of heart. Rose said, "I know now that for some there isn't any hope. So I say good riddance to this so-called friend, and maybe she can find what she is searching for in solitude, because that's all that is left to her. Whatever she may have thought of me being jealous or possessive, overbearing, or whatnot, it was her own that she saw. I've never been jealous of her. I have no reason, nor am I possessive. I am supportive, but no one can possess Master. In any case, I've deleted all her things from my compy. Her letters and such are trashed, her pictures are burned, and whatever else I have from her is gone. She's on my ignore list, as well as blocked. I will not have anything to do with someone who is so two-faced and false." Rose and Tanya then banned Conchita from the Snapewives Yahoo group. Conchita explained this in her own group, where she said that she was banned because someone shared her private conversation with them with Tanya and Rose. She also commented on Tanya's live journal page, where she stated that she wants to protect others from them, saying, "Those that started the war on me and wish I was dead, thank you for making me see how great Severus is, and also I have never felt more alive than now. So go on, mope, because I am not crying in a corner. I am strong and proud and very energetic, using whatever I can to keep normal, loving people away from your sickness before it seriously hurts someone. You two are damaging." Later, Conchita found out that Rose and Tanya married Severus using the vows that she wrote, which were mentioned earlier. This upset Conchita, and she claimed that her sister wives were stabbing other Snapeists in the back. The post ends by saying that the Yahoo group the Snapewives shared was deleted due to the drama, and that Conchita was looking forward to having a Christmas dinner with Snape, and then finally, they would be wed. This is the last of the posts on Fandom Wank about the Snapewives. Despite widespread criticism and mocking on Fandom Wank, not everyone thinks that Snapeists are crazy. The article, Snapewives and Snapeism, a fiction-based religion within the Harry Potter fandom by Zoe Alderton presents the perspective that it may be unfair to delegitimize Snapeism as a religion. One criticism of the delegitimization of Snapeists is that it may be due to gender bias in fandom, wherein female fans are seen as hormonal and more invested in the romantic subplots or shipping characters together than they are in the actual story. Zoe Alderton also suggests that the idea of middle-aged women having a hobby with sexual aspects to it makes some people unreasonably uncomfortable. A similar critique comes from a blog post titled, "Unpopular Fanish Opinion, I Feel Bad About Mocking the Snapewives." The author of this post says that she was troubled by seeing comments about the Snapewives which said that girls obsessed with TV shows, stars, etc. are all terrifying. The author of the blog post goes on to say that a man who is a serious football fan is generally regarded as more socially acceptable than a woman who is an intensely passionate fan of Harry Potter, even though football fans have streaked across fields in their team colors or started riots over the outcomes of games. She criticizes comments from people who thought the Snapewives should be investigated by Child Protective Services and have their kids taken away, saying that many parents have strange hobbies and that it's too extreme of a reaction to a group of women who have intense feelings over a fictional character. Zoe Alderton also defends Snapeism by comparing it to Christianity. She says, "There is no more concrete evidence for the Christian God or for the possibility of communing with spirits than there is for the astral manifestation of Snape. The primary difference here seems to be that the fandom community has not chosen to legitimate the Snapeist channeling experiences as the medieval Christian church did with some of its female mystics." She suggests that there's a bias and oversimplification regarding the divisions of what can be considered a legitimate religion and what cannot. So by now, you may be wondering what has become of the Snapewives. As I mentioned before, many of their posts were lost to time with no available archives. However, we can still piece together the final straw for the original Snapewives, which is said to be due to a major fight between Tanya and Rose, where Tanya slammed Rose on LiveJournal. Rose implied that the fight was due to her increasing interest in Agent Gibbs. After all, you can't worship Snape and another god. That's just wrong. Rose justified her feelings by saying that while she did have another interest, he reminded her a lot of Snape. In one post, she explains, "I do love Severus Snape. I love him with all my heart, and I always will. No one can take him away from me, but even I have to say that I found someone who is pretty much like him, and my passion, obsession, need is being met there." Rose blames her wandering eye on Rowling not providing enough Snape merchandise for her. In 2010, Tanya's husband eventually forced her to go to Rose's house and apologize. She also asked Rose to give her her Snape posters back because she thought Rose no longer worshipped him as her master. This was apparently not the case, with Rose later writing, "LOL, LOL, not even when hell freezes over. I love him, always will. Period, end of story. When Snape captured my heart in 2000, that was that." Although she proclaimed her eternal love for Snape, the Snapeist-related content began to die down on Rose's blog. At this point, she made a comment to a friend that said she used to be into Harry Potter, implying that she may no longer be a Snapeist. Rose's blog was deleted in 2011, and there are no further updates on her or any of the other original Snapewives. We may never know if they're still loyal to Snape or if they found a new husband on an astral plane. With all this being said, I'd love to hear what you guys think regarding the legitimacy of Snapeism as a religious belief, or your thoughts on the Snapewives in general. Please remember to be respectful to anyone else who leaves a comment. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you subscribe to my channel and join me for my next video. Thank you for watching.